spoilers for Moon Knight episode 1 coming up in 3, 2, 1. All right, Clay, we're gonna have to start with you because obviously I think everyone else feels differently than you do, including the rest of the world.
Okay. So the reason I'm coming at, and even Shelby says you're being really hard on the show, but there was not a single moment in the first episode that felt like it was from a Moon Knight comic at all. It didn't have the tone. I didn't feel like the only thing that I had read was that Oscar Isaacs was going to what's the character's name from, I hate that I'm forgetting this, the British show with motherfucker. I hate that I might have to. I posted this in the new.
Oh,
hold on, I might have to look this.
I'll try and find it.
Yeah, it's the Ricky Gervais show.
Jesus Christ!
Fuck.
Yeah, I
don't keep up with Ricky Gervais, so I don't know.
Is it
The Office?
Extras?
An Idiot Abroad.
Oh, An Idiot Abroad. Okay.
Carl Pilkington. So,
okay.
Sorry that took forever to get to Carl Pilkington, but that was Oscar Isaac's motivation was to do Carl Pilkington in Moon Knight. So what we see is Carl Pilkington, which I can't not see now, is that's who he's playing. He's not playing Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant in the comics is the reason Moon Knight is compared to Batman so much. He is a billionaire, rich playboy. It's a personality that allows him to, have all the gadgets and all the cool shit.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But I think that's the reason they changed it so much, because they didn't want people comparing that to Batman.
Right. But they went and made him Clark Kent. It was like, well, what if we don't do Batman, but we do Superman? And now Carl Pilkington looks like a Clark Kent in this whole first episode. So Stephen Grant itself is not the character from the comics at all. The tone, the voice, nothing is there. The biggest part of the comic that shows up in the show is Khonshu. And Khonshu really didn't have a strong voice until like later in the comics.
Yeah.
Can I just add a counterpoint? Because I get all of that. And again, I'm reading the original series right now. So I agree with you that like Stephen Grant kind of he's the linchpin of the Moon Knight character, because that's how he's able to have all these identities and stuff, right?
Right.
I feel like the intent of the show, though, is to play with the multiple personalities, and they could not have run with Stephen Grant that way, right?
I thought Mark Spector was the main personality.
He is.
Well, he is, and that's what they seem to be setting up, is that Mark Spector is the one doing all the stuff. Stephen Grant is like the schlub that it seems like he regresses into, right?
Okay.
I even think the reason his accent is so weird and like a dweeb is because that's not his real personality. So he's just putting on an accent.
And he's affecting an accent because he's living and working in London, right?
Exactly.
So I think they wanted to go with that. And honestly, that approach wouldn't work if the character you first see is a rich guy, because that rich guy wouldn't work with someone who's like, why am I waking up with my legs strapped to a column and putting tape on the door, and I can only afford a one-finned fish? I mean, it's like he's got it.
Unlike the 90s, we don't really sympathize with the rich anymore.
Yeah,
that's another problem. So
yeah,
but I feel like there's a difference in the story. Part of it feels like Mark Spector died, turned his soul over to Khonshu to be resurrected. So they both coexist. Khonshu may have been using him for a while, and this is my theory about where the show's going. Stephen Grant wants to disable Khonshu in a way. So he had another personality created, and that's what Stephen Grant is. Stephen Grant is this personality that maybe he's used hypnosis or something, but he's created a personality that he can keep Khonshu, that obviously Khonshu hates because he calls him the idiot.
Yeah.
And can't do anything. So, and he doesn't know how to turn over his body to him. He only turns his body over to Mark Spector.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why he knows so much about Egyptology, right? Like he's teaching himself about that. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That's what I feel like it's going in, getting away from the comic book. Yes, it hurts that if he's a rich guy, it's hard to sympathize with the rich. It's hard. But we do know Frenchie exists in the show because he does show up as a phone number on Mark Spector's phone. The 32nd.
Okay, wait. So is that Duchamp? Is his last name Duchamp?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, see, I just saw Marcel Duchamp, so I thought it was like a random art history joke. But okay,
that's Frenchie. That's his Alfred.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So if he's not rich and he doesn't have an Alfred, then what's Frenchie?
Josh is like, then you're like
Daniel
specifically for me.
Yeah, I know. That's what often happens. I'm like, oh, I get this joke.
But I do want to point out one thing that I noticed that have you guys ever taken a lie detector test or had to take it?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I just know this from reading and stuff. If you put, I've read that if you put like tacks in your feet while you take a lie detector test, it helps you avoid detection. And that opening scene where Harrow takes all the glass and puts it in his sandals.
Yeah.
I think that is to keep the judgment that's in him away from judging him.
Interesting. I wondered because that is the opening shot, right? And I was like, why is he doing this? And just
because the villain is bigger than the hero at this point.
Right.
Is what I feel. And the other thing is we have an unreliable narrator. That's the other problem we have, and that's kind of shitty to put in the first episode.
I don't know.
So go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of anticipated that. If you remember, I sort of I theorized that was going to be a quality, like where maybe every episode's like a different personality sort of thing, right?
Right.
I will push back against that because I love the entire sequence where he just suddenly wakes up and he's it looks like Switzerland. Like he's just somewhere else. Poor guy has no idea what's going on, running around getting hit. Like he waves and the guy's like, what do you do? And shoot him. It's like, to me, that whole sequence worked so well because we have an unreliable narrator. So we are just as confused as he is. So,
but he's such a complex character. It's weird to choose that option in a show for a character that's, I'm going to say, B or C list.
I think I agree with you. I think they are relying on the fact that most people don't know who Moon Knight is. And evidence of that comes up, and I posted this in the news channel. I read a fascinating news article that in the opening scene where he's talking to the girl in the museum, there's a QR code on the wall. If you scan that QR code, Marvel gives you a free copy of, I believe, Werewolf by Night 32.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is their little nod to, we know you don't know who this is. And for the fans out there who love Moon Knight, we're trying to give access to people, right?
Right.
So.
And just to, call back to what you were saying earlier, Moon Knight was always a book. I mean, like if you go buy any of the books I recommended for the first run, you get a lot of the one-shots. A lot of great Moon Knight stories are just one story and done, and we don't get that in the show. We don't even get a story in the first episode. We just get mass confusion. And I feel like we've had other shows that have come out like that dropped more than one episode because it helped you kind of gather more information. They should have done it with this.
That's a good point.
Again, all the violence, all the action that typically is in the pulpy action Moon Knight comic is absent from this. It's taken from us because we have to learn that this character doesn't remember anything when this other personality takes over.
So I really actually like the fact that we never, because we are following everything through Steven's eyes.
Right.
We never see the fights. We don't see like all the violence up until the end when he gives up to Mark. I can't see. Did you?
I'm trying to do thumbs down, but that's me right now.
I think the fact that we don't, until we move over to the other personality and we all follow along. I love that scene in the restroom when he gives up control, he turns into Moon Knight. The jackal comes through the door, and we once again we don't really see anything. We zoom out to the hallway. The sink flies just out the door, destroyed, and then we see the jackal trying to get away, and it gets dragged back in, and then we get to that sequence where we've seen that he's punching him, right? Like, I love the lack of violence in the first episode because I feel like now that we're following Mark, we may get a callback to those scenes because in the trailer they showed us when he was falling, right? But we didn't see that in this episode. We just see him wake up in the hill with like his jaw dislocated. Which, man, what a fucking trip to wake up.
I know, God. Oh, and
I'm sorry, but if you're that character with a broken jaw, you're not going to put that thing back into place. You're going to scream and run and look for help.
He could still have some supernatural stuff, even if he's not being right. Like Khonshu may be keeping him. Yeah, Khonshu may be keeping his body somehow intact. No, not fully because he's not fully in control, but at least preventing him from dying.
At this point, I think Mark may be calling the shots, and that's why he created this body, because it forces Khonshu to keep the idiot healed.
Right. I will also, so I'm kind of in agreement with Daniel that I liked the fact that we didn't see a lot of the violence because I think it's clearly setting up the distinct personalities and how they react to things. I walked away from the first episode realizing that the preponderance of footage in the trailer is from that episode. So that makes me hopeful for what's coming in the next 5, right? Because there's a lot we haven't seen.
No, there's because in one of the later trailers, there's a scene where he's actually outside. He's outside fighting. He's jumping off a car, doing the cape up.
Yeah, but like the main scenes, like him in the elevator with the old woman, right?
Yeah, in the town square with Harold.
Like all that stuff is featured in the trailer. So,
yep, I agree. That I think they did so much with so little of that first episode because it's like only 45 minutes.
40, yeah, it's like 45, 48 minutes.
People that have watched the other episode, at least the first 4 that they went for review, which feels like a weird number because you're giving them almost everything.
Yeah,
but they're all about 50 minutes each.
Okay.
Now, I talked with Adrian because he was asking me what I thought of it, and I was just like, I said I didn't dig it. He loved it like you guys, but he's like, well, I see 3 distinct personalities, and I'm like, there should be 4 though.
Well, we haven't gotten Mr. Knight yet, have we?
We know Mr. Knight's in the ads. We know Moon Knight's in the ads. We know Mark Spector's the real one, and now we've just spent an episode with one of the other personalities.
There should be 5 then, shouldn't there? Then.
Well, yeah, we haven't. We don't even know if Jake Lockley exists yet. He might have been written out, because Jake Lockley is violent and has some tendencies that Mr. Knight, but Mr. Knight goes full throttle violence as opposed to Jake.
Save Jake for the Midnight Suns show.
So I guess I don't know much about Mr. Knight. Is he like more of a sadistic kind of guy compared to Moon Knight? Okay.
Right. He suits up in all white, and it's his character that utters the line, "I want them to see me coming."
Gotcha.
He's a little Rorschach to me. Like,
makes sense.
The closest character I can compare him to, not as far as the Punisher, although I do love when they team up. Less guns, more fists.
Less guns, more fists.
Yeah, I feel like it missed on the tone of the comics. It should have given, like, my concern is that like the next issue or the next episode is going to be a replay of this, but seen from Mark Spector's perspective, like when he shows up, which then it's just going to be exhausting. Why didn't we just get those back to back? That would have been easier to watch.
That's true.
Plus, we're only getting 6 episodes. So if we're going to see things through one person's vision and then we have to wait another episode for this, I think that's a totally bad idea.
I would think if they do that, they do like an abridged version where we see all that in the first maybe 10 minutes, and then the next 40 minutes we just finally move forward with the story.
So what if the next episode just opens up cold with Jake Lockley, and we get some of the background and the context, and again, like the other viewpoints of certain scenes? Like, I would find it fascinating if the first 3 episodes all end with that same shot of Moon Knight turning around towards the camera. Like, that's where the personalities suddenly converge. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the 4th episode is from the point of view of the goldfish.
Yes. Wait, 1 fin or 2 fin?
Well, obviously the goldfish has been replaced.
Obviously, yeah, because it's been he lost 2 days, right? He thought it was Friday, it was Sunday. We don't know what Sunday. Maybe it was even more than 2 days. But
I want to point out, in the very first scene when he steps out of the bed, there's an area under his bed that has a crease around it that looks like there's a place underneath his bed that he can go into, in the same way that he was hiding his phone. And because I watched it twice, I watched it once by myself, and then I watched it with Shelby, and she goes, you realize this is going to have to last a few episodes, so you need to watch all of them. But I'm so used to picking up a Moon Knight comic and reading one story and being done that I felt like that should have been it. I feel like I could pick up a Moon Knight story and there would be action in it.
Yeah.
All the action was cut out of this. The tone of the show completely was not of any Moon Knight book I've ever read. That's why I'm hard on it, because I know they're trying to set up a show, but there's nothing. This character is not anything from the comic. We get to see Crowley. Did y'all notice Crowley was in it?
Yeah, I didn't notice it when we were looking. Like, I was watching the show, but after watching like breakdowns and Easter egg stuff,
where's Crowley?
Crowley's the statue guy that he's talking to when he's eating, and the guy's coming.
Crowley. I thought that was like Isaac Newton for some reason.
No,
so I didn't.
No, Crowley was always a homeless guy in the comics that would hang out at Gina's and give Jake Lockley all the information of what's happening on the streets, so he could solve crime.
No, I guess I just didn't realize that was supposed to be Crowley. Anyway, okay.
The main characters from the original book aren't in here yet, except Crowley. Then you have Gina's diner with her kids,
right?
And
the phone call, the person who called
Layla. Yeah,
Layla's probably Marlene.
Marlene, right?
I got a question, but I'll tell you. Give me a second. The other thing I really liked is that every time I've only read the more modern Moon Knight stuff, and every time I read it, it feels like I'm starting a completely new series, because every writer just kind of does whatever they want with Moon Knight, and they don't disregard what's been in the past, but they almost kind of adapt it to their own story. Right. So going into this with the same, like, it feels the same, where I'm like, this is just a new creative team that they know the basics of who Moon Knight is, but now they're doing their own like story where you don't need to know much about Moon Knight other than, the main things, the DID and then the conscious of it all. But overall, like, every time I go into a new Moon Knight series, like, it feels new completely. Like, it feels like they've never read the other ones almost.
Well, it's like when Lemire took over. Lemire took over after Charlie Houston. Charlie Houston focused on the pulp, action, and some of the background. I mean, he took Bushman, and had Moon Knight kill him, cut his face off. Yeah. And it haunted him so much that Bushman appeared in the comic as this ghost without a face, constantly following him and belittling him. Yep. And so it gave him even more mental health problems, so that when Jeff Lemire took over, he took it in a completely opposite direction and put him in a mental hospital. Like, it's the balance of the things that are in there. And then Lemire even added the idea of Moon Knight being an actual astronaut space fighter concept that's kind of dropped in there. There's all these little pieces that are sprinkled that are never like, this is the biggest part of who he is. It's always just been about a guy with mental health problems, and the story may or may not be true.
Right.
But if you're launching a series, it better fucking be true, and it better, I don't know. It just...
Well, but I feel like what you just said is exactly what the first episode did. right? It's dealing with a guy with mental health issues, and the story may or may not be true. I mean,
But we don't know who this character is. We get Moon Knight for like the last 5 seconds.
yeah.
There's no real action that we see. We just see this guy recovering from stuff and running constantly. It's Carl Pilkington as Moon Knight and not Stephen Graham.
I'll say this too. I think Oscar Isaac is perfect for this because I don't think a lot of people would have stayed engaged with a show that doesn't give us as much action or any of that if it wasn't for his performance. I think he's really good at making you feel like despair, like all the stuff, like when he feels bad, you feel for the dude, right? Even just the being bullied at work, like we've all dealt with somebody like that, and Isaac's really just nails the role of like trying to deal with it and move on. But then they get all these little things like, oh yeah, he notices there's a missing god in the pantheon that they have, or like all these little details that tell you there's more there. But this,
So, question for Clay: who is Ethan Hawke's character?
He is a guy who showed up in one issue of Moon Knight in Fist of Khonshu, and that's it. Like he's not like a nemesis. He just appeared in one book, and apparently Fist of Khonshu is the one that they're facing.
It's my theory.
Oh, there you go.
So you think that castle's in Transylvania, and that's the heart of the story, that Dracula has Moon Knight's money, and he just wants his fucking money
that's
back.
Where we connect to Blade.
You know,
did he actually play Dracula in Blade? Like, did I miss something?
No.
He's just yeah,
I've never seen Blade, so I don't know.
Huh?
I know. I've never seen Blade.
The first one is really good.
That's
motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.
You know what? We're gonna set up a Blade show in the next few months.
I will do that. I've never seen it. I had to look up the reference of Snipes appearing in What We Do in the Shadows. I mean, I knew he played Blade, but I was like, I don't really get. Oh, now I get it. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't know about, like, in Blade 3, he hated the director so much he did a scene and kept his eyes closed, and they had to CGI his eyes opening because he was like, "Fuck you" to the director. They had to spend CGI money for his eyes to open.
Oh my God, no!
That's one of the If you find a good YouTube video on it that tracks all the fighting between Wesley Snipes and I think it was Narrington, Steve Norrington did the third one. I forget whoever directed that piece of shit. But man, yeah, even Patton Oswalt had shared stories about how difficult he was to work with on set.
Snipes or the director?
Snipes just did not want to do it, didn't want to be there, didn't want to listen to anybody.
No, he wanted to fucking do Black Panther.
Yeah. He set up a studio to do Black Panther.
Wow, I didn't know any of this. This is fascinating.
But
can you imagine what a Black Panther from the early aughts would have been like?
But did you guys know that Moon Knight was supposed to appear in earlier Marvel work?
I'm not surprised.
The Blade TV series. They reference a guy who was supposed to be Moon Knight, but the show got canceled after the first season, and they had planned on bringing
Spike TV show.
The Spike TV show. They planned on bringing Mark Spector in the second season.
I mean, that makes sense because it's that whole body of comics from the 70s, right? You got Blade, Morbius, Werewolf by Night. You've got,
I remember Sandra a little bit, but like you're talking about shows that got canceled before you got second season. I remember talking to John Wesley Shipp at one of the Comic Cons, and he says that like if they had done a Flash season 2, we were going to get introduced to the Justice League.
Oh,
nice.
Oh my God, the 1990 Justice League. Oh my God, I want to cast that.
It still would have been better than the other 1990 Justice League.
That pilot, movie week. Oh dear God,
I love that. It's so bad.
I want to go back and rewatch the 90s Flash. I have a soft spot for that show.
On the box set.
Yeah, me too.
Since Clay did bring that up, one of the other things I really appreciate about episode 1 is the lack of like MCU like stuff on it. Like, this feels for now, and I'm sure they'll connect more stuff in the future at some point. But for now, it's just isolated. It's on its own thing.
Yep.
You don't have to deal with any like continuity of 23,000 movies and all the shows. Like, you can just watch Moon Knight, and that's it.
So
I mean,
do you feel
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, so do you feel like, because I feel like Moon Knight's the first of these upcoming series like Ms. Marvel and others that I wonder if that's intentional, because all the shows so far have been really closely tied to the events of the MCU up to that point, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm just kind of curious if this is now that next generation of MCU shows.
I mean, could be, unless you absolutely need that, event to spin off another series the way we do it in comics.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have an event, you've got to have a spin-off.
Ms. Marvel may be more connected than this, just because we know she's going to be in the Marvels movie.
They mentioned Captain Marvel. They literally mentioned Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that's true. And she's wearing that Captain Marvel costume. Yeah.
And all her reports are on superheroes.
You can't be any more tied to the MCU than that.
and I will say, though, there are things about Moon Knight I love, that I don't totally hate it, but I feel like the show in the first episode missed what the tone and feel of the comic has always been. Even when it was mental, I just felt like the lack of action and the lack of characters from the book. I understand the Stephen Grant transition. It makes a lot of sense. You don't want to play to the rich people and have this guy be a billionaire, but he is playing, to me, like a Clark Kent. And that's one of the great things, is Oscar Isaacs is so fucking good, man. I look at this guy and I go, wait a minute. He was the guy that dominated Dune. And he's only in a small section of Dune. But when I think about Dune, I think about how just that dude carries himself, who he is, even to the point where he dies. I mean, like, he's in such a fraction of that film, and he's so goddamn good. But seeing him play Carl Pilkington, it sucks, because that's all I see is Carl. It's like, I watch that show and I love Carl Pilkington.
You keep saying that name like everyone knows who that is.
I have no idea who Carl Pilkington is. So
go watch An Idiot Abroad. Go watch, go watch An Idiot Abroad. It is what it is Ricky Gervais found this guy who used to work at the XM Sirius radio station. He produced his show with Stephen Merchant. And Carl just doesn't like to do anything. He likes to stay at home. He likes to do his own thing. He eats the same thing. He likes his days to just be average. So Ricky Gervais put him on a travel show and sent him all over the world. And everything he does is he's uncomfortable. He hates it and he's miserable. And it's just Ricky laughing at him, because I'm going to pull something so you guys can see who the fuck this is. Because when you see it, you can't watch Moon Knight anymore, because you just see him doing a perfect impersonation.
Oh, God. All right.
But Oscar Isaacs is perfect. Some of the music is used well, but it's overused a bit. Like, I love the idea of the sleeping being a theme in the songs.
Yeah.
I also am very curious how long he's been putting sand around his bed, like how long this has been a problem.
Right.
And if that's it. And this is the other reason my theory is that Mark Spector set up this fake personality, is that he calls his mom and reports in. I think he's calling and leaving voicemails for Mark.
Oh,
I
interesting.
was going to ask you about that. Do y'all think, like, his mom's not real, right? Like, there's no mom.
I assume, because it's always a voicemail. Like, he's not actively talking to someone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Is there any final thoughts on Moon Knight? I know we'll probably talk more about it once episode 2 comes out next week or in the next few weeks.
The actors, the two scenes they share together are so good. I mean, Ethan Hawke is just. I mean, he is Mr. Gen X man. He is fucking a home run. I've never seen him play a villain, so
I haven't either.
Awesome.
And it's so funny, because he showed up, and I mentioned to my wife and daughter that it was Ethan Hawke, and my daughter was like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "Well, A, how do you know who Ethan Hawke is? What have you ever seen him in?" And then B, my wife was like, "Wait, that's Ethan Hawke?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because I mean, he doesn't look like Ethan Hawke like we remember. He's not.
He's a
I just remembered what my daughter would have seen him in. He's in Dead Poet Society.
In Training Day. Your daughter's a big Training Day fan.
Training Day, yes. The classic training
Classic Denzel asking Ethan Hawke, "Do you ever get wet?"
day.
Also, Josh, I'm gonna sell you. This is the guy that plays Whistler on Blade,
Oh,
Yeah.
and now we're gonna keep it. And the first
Wait a
movie
minute. This
starts-
guy? That's fucking Chris Christopherson. How do you say this guy?
yeah.
Well, I didn't know his name. I didn't want to be rude. Also,
He's a
the
legend.
The first movie stars with a blood rave. I'll leave it at that.
Wait a minute. A blood rave with Tracy Lords.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wait. Are you trying to sell me on Fast and Furious?
No,
No,
that's
Blade.
Blade
Oh,
1.
Blade. Oh, okay. All right. I was very confused.
Yeah,
I got
it. And you forget about who shows up in the third one.
I mean, Triple H, I guess. I don't know. Is that who?
No,
Oh.
who helps Blade out in the third film?
Oh yeah, Ryan Reynolds. and Jessica
Daryl
Biel.
Dixon.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Everyone forgets that he showed up in that third
That's
film,
true.
but yeah.
True. All right. This has been our Moon Knight episode 1 talk. We'll keep covering the show.
I'll
we'll
keep
talk
watching.
more about it. Yeah,
I'm
stay
hoping the
tuned.
pieces fit together.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say to Clay on this one is that you got to realize none of the Marvel stuff has been close to what the comic book stuff is, whether it be MCU or.
Oh, it can't. And my example is always going to be Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers has the most fucked up history in all of Marvel. She's been retconned 10 different ways.
Yeah.
And she may be the most retconned. I'd love to hear everyone's idea of who's been the most retconned character in all of Marvel.
Drax.
I will tell you. I'll tell you the
Drax
one
has
that
been
actually,
retconned. He's from an alien planet, and there's nothing Earth connected. There's no special powers. He's just an alien from a planet who got decimated by Thanos' henchmen.
I would tell you the one that is closest to the comics. The first 2/3 of the original Iron Man.
Okay.
It's pretty
And-
spot on.
And
Yeah.
Cap's kind of also.
Cap
Yeah,
is-
I mean,
because
Cap
of
to a certain
period.
degree. They
Yeah.
take, yeah, but I mean,
He comes out 8
Iron
years
Man's
instead of
super
20.
close. I mean, just go read his first appearance, and it's basically just update that to like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That's the story. I mean, and it does service to the comic. So
I mean, even the Hulk's been retconned because he didn't become the Hulk by trying to create the super soldier serum.
Yeah, check out Grand Design for all the retcons.
It's so
yeah.
funny to see the retcon on Hulk going from gray to green just because of a printing error.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
know.
that is cool
Love it.
history.
I love it.
The last thing I'll say on Moon Knight, at the end of the credits, we do have mentions from a lot of comic creators. So I wanted to bring that up. We have Moon Knight was created by Doug Mensch and Don Perlin. And then special thanks to Doug Braithwaite, Greg Hurwitz, Jim Kruger, Jeff Lemire, Jerome Pena, Alex Ross, which I didn't know why. I need to find out why.
Yeah, that's odd.
Declan Shalvey, Bill Sienkiewicz, Greg Smallwood, Chris Warner, Alan
Yes.
Selenitz. So maybe they're not really getting anything from the Charlie Houston or the Brian Michael Bendis stuff.
I hope not from the Brian
Because they're
Michael
not-
Bendis stuff.
Well, only
But yeah,
because
the
they're
Charlie
not-
Houston stuff, you have to have like a base level to get to because he has
Yeah.
to be a kind of tired and beaten old man. Or not
Only-
old
only
man,
thing-
but crime fighter.
I only brought that up because maybe that'll give you a more of a mind frame, Clay, of like where they may be pulling from stuff.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that are being thanked. So all right.